Welcome to You Know His Name, a 007 podcast. I'm your host, Tony Artiga, and I'm joined by John Morgan and Rick Rodriguez again today. How y'all doing, fellas?
Doing good.
Doing good. Am I supposed to go first? Because I'm first. Because I'm before Rick.
No, I'm John.
Oh, hey John, how you doing?
So,
Hi,
guys,
Rick.
welcome, welcome, and we're going to be talking about today with one of our collective favorite Bond films, From Russia with Love, Sean Connery's second outing as James Bond. We actually watched this together the other night, and let me tell
What a
you,
part.
what a what a film, what a film. So, for a quick synopsis, John is going to give us a short breakdown of what From Russia with Love is about. So, John, why don't you take it away?
All right. So Bond is set up by Spectre to go looking for this decoding device that MI6 has been after for a few years now, called the Lecter. And Spectre's plan is to put the Lecter out in the open by using a Smersh spy, who's this beautiful young lady, hence the love, who comes from Russia herself,
Hence,
on behalf of Smersh.
hence the from Russia.
Yes, and little does Bond know, of course, although MI6 does suspect when they gather their intel, it becomes apparent to them this is an obvious trap, one that MI6 cannot afford to miss, though, because they want that Lecter. Of course, it is a trap, and it's all set to assassinate Bond and also intercept the Lecter, therefore causing more problems between Russia and England in the Cold War dispute. Yeah, and I mean that's pretty much the sum of it. We're going to get more into details during the discussion, but I believe that's all correct. Is that right?
Yeah, you're all. That is very much correct. Just to fill in one hole, that the whole reason that Spectre has concocted this plot to kill Bond is, and this is one of the very few times where any of the movies actually directly references the events of the movie, a film before. It is directly for revenge of their top agent Julius No, who Bond killed in Doctor No, which we will discuss in a future episode.
That's right. This is a direct sequel, Bond.
Yeah. It's still pretty self-contained for the most part, but yeah, it does actually. This is one of the few that references what happened in the film before. So film was directed by Terrence Young, obviously starring Sean Connery. That also features Daniela Bianchi as the leading lady, Tatiana Romanova, Pedro Armendariz, who plays Karen Bay, Lotte Lenya as Rosa Klebb, and Robert Shaw as the film's main antagonist, Red Grant.
So cool.
It's fantastic.
I mean,
yeah.
it's one of my favorite Bond villains, hands down. I'm gonna just put that out there.
You're right, John. It is a fantastic film, and it's a fantastic character. Red Grant's one of the best Bond villains of all time. Rick, we were talking when we were getting ready to do this episode about how this is the first proper, possibly even the only proper espionage film of the series. So, why don't you elaborate on that?
Oh well, I mean, first off, it's definitely it. I've been a Bond fan for a long time. The Connerys were the first ones I watched, and this one is still, even after all these years, my favorite. It's not just that it's about. I mean, the Bond movies after this film, starting with Goldfinger, they really find their formula, and Goldfinger really kind of sets this very much the template that they have followed till for I don't want to say like till now, because they haven't stopped, even though they've been more, quote unquote character driven, or try to be more dimensional with characterization and storyline. It's still the Goldfinger formula. It's big set pieces, big sets, eccentric
Yeah.
henchmen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's even though it's still like Doctor No before it, a slightly heightened kind of pulp world of spies and intrigue. It's not a story that is, how do you put it? The world is not going to blow up if
No.
they don't get the Lecter by the end. Every Bond story after this would be a big thing of almost every Bond story would be a big thing. Like, we need to get the Lecter by Sunday, the 12th, or else they blow up the embassy. Something like that would be the ticking clock. And in this, it's just like, we've really wanted the Lecter for a long time. It's business as usual. We're up against the Russians, so they think at first.
Mhm.
And we just really want the Lecter because we're all in the Cold War, and that's just that's this week. We have an opportunity to get the Lecter, and that's why this one is like I said, is a proper espionage movie where it's not the fate of the world on the line. It's just this, as the famous Hitchcock thing, just get the MacGuffin, which is the plot, but it's not the main story. The main story really is more observing how Bond, does what he does, and him going through kind of his callous but very effective ways, and how he interacts with Tatiana,
and wooing a Russian broad.
Yeah, and ending a gypsy feud, and therefore betting the gypsy.
Wait. Does he end the feud?
Well, essentially, there's a section of the movie he gets with Karim Bey, who is the consulate agent in Istanbul for MI6, correct?
Shout out to Pedro Armendáriz, who
Yes,
we will definitely discuss in detail later in the episode.
Yeah, he is the father of Pedro Armendáriz Jr., who many people have seen in a fuck ton of movies.
Yeah.
Specifically, probably under Robert Rodriguez. But anyway, his father is kind of essentially his, how do you put it? His link to the world of where. Did we say Tatiana essentially at first is posing as a defector, trying to head to the West, a commonality during the Cold War of that would happen on both sides. Help me give effect to this country, and I will give you information about the country we are in Cold War at. And
she's going to offer up the Lecter, though, right?
She's going to offer up the Lecter in return, and information about the Lecter. Of course, Russia has its own agents that are kind of trying to take out Karim Bey. And of course, England, being on the Western side of things, thinks Russia is trying to prevent them from taking the Lecter. But little do they know, and as Bond will find out, it's really the organization known as Spectre. I think it's first name dropped in Dr. No, if that's not correct.
Yes,
Dr. No's talking to Bond at the table. Classic, Mr. Bond, let's have dinner, get to know each other, kind of shit. And
Spectre.
Right, and he says he works for Organization Spectre. And so here you get even more of that, and you get the famous intro of Blofeld, not called Blofeld yet, I don't believe, just
number one.
He's just number one, and you don't see his face. Very Inspector Gadgety. It's just the cat, which would get spoofed to the point of being even more famous for having the cat in Austin Powers, Dr. Evil. Which is why I assume there's no cat in Spectre.
I also watched that just recently, that and The Spy Who Shagged Me, just before we sat and watched
heavily influenced by the Connery Bonds.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's really that which they are specifically spoofing.
See, and I have a problem also deciphering, like, we're talking now about From Russia with Love. I can't remember Frau, like what the Frau character's name is. She's number 3.
Rosa Klebb.
Klebb, John.
Okay, all right, but see, I'm so washed over with all the Austin Powers. She's just Frau Farbissina.
Person who inspired.
I'm sorry,
Frau.
Dear listener. This will be the last episode that John Morgan will be hosting. We will be accepting applications. It does not pay, but you get to hang out with Rick.
Crap! I even lost my fake job. Fuck.
Well, that's the big cool thing about this one is that it starts expanding the world of essentially the villains of the series.
Yeah.
I think in the books, it's definitely the organization of SMERSH,
Yeah.
which is a Russian associated agency, and the producers, I think, kind of wisely, they've decided to create a side villain entity that's not either the West or the Russians, the East, but an organization that is more bent on just creating havoc and world profit.
Such a great
You're,
idea.
yeah, I totally agree with that. Well, later on in the show, because I wanted to bring up whether the pros and cons of like switching the main villain from Smirch to Spectre, but just to stay on topic with what Rick's saying, it's a genius move. We might as well incorporate that because it makes the film feel a little bit more timeless. Like it doesn't date it as much as it could have if he had stuck to those very overt political overtones. There's also something to be said about the fact that in this movie, Bond isn't because you're right. It's so different from the Goldfinger formula, Rick. You're so right and it's also that he's not pursuing a specific villain because he's pursuing a specific MacGuffin. The film allows you to actually flesh out just what dangers are kind of lurking under every corner while Bond is just going on his mission. Like he's not trying to stop a Red Grant. He's not trying to stop a Doctor No. He's trying to get this item.
No, he's
And
doing really what spies
yeah,
do: gather
yeah,
information and
yeah,
uh, get a what would they call it? You know, get a source out of a country or something like that.
Yeah,
You know,
it's just reconnaissance.
yeah,
and it's exciting because the direction, it's by Terrence Young, who directed and started the series with Doctor No,
yeah.
and it's like zero fucking fat on this movie,
Yeah.
zero fat, but it's tasty
Yeah.
as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's spicy. The location work is fucking tastic. We just kept raving about it
Yeah.
as we were watching it.
I love all the scenery. It's it's just awe-inspiring. They don't waste it. They'll just throw the fucking palaces in the background.
Which, by the way, apparently I did some research. They shot a lot in Istanbul, Turkey, but for Pedro, who was unfortunately dying of cancer, he found out while the film was shooting, they actually did a lot of recreation and stuff in Pinewood Studios. So lot of the stuff that we were actually being like, oh God, look at that. That must be location. It's like,
no, they were able to do some really cool scenic work. Like just do like scenic paintings. Like there's I think a hotel room like later at the later end of the movie, and you see like the scenery in the background.
Yeah.
And it looks so picture perfect, but it's clearly, it's a set. But that scenery they add with the painting, it's fantastic.
It's something I think these later Bonds haven't maybe kind of allowed themselves to pleasure in enough is their locations. You know, Istanbul is as much a character, and it adds to the notion of adventure. Well, that's occurring when Bond. You know, there was a scene where Bond just arrives at the hotel, and the main theme is pumping. Yeah. It's just Bond looking around his hotel.
It's great,
but you're totally pumped. Just as he's doing his thing.
Well, it's also
like the coolest guy who's ever lived.
It's you really don't know why it's playing. You don't know why it's playing. I remember that moment you're talking about because you hear it and you're like, okay, this is very casual. Just we're gonna just fucking blast the score
because he's the coolest man alive. And
but there's a reason. It's slowly dawning on you as the scene is unfolding that he's looking for something, and then he finds the wire, and that's when the music just like crashes in, and it's all one continuous shot. It's really well played.
Because the thing that's awesome about that moment and why that theme music is so appropriate in that moment, even though all he's doing is looking around that hotel room, is because it's a great tune. It's a very fun tune, but it also has kind of like a more darker undertone where this guy has to be James Bond at all times, which also includes being paranoid as fuck. Like,
but Connery plays it so just like not here,
it's
not there. There it is.
Yeah.
And he calls the concierge, who is totally. And that's the other cool thing. It's not like everybody is working for Spectre. Essentially, the only character in Istanbul is the Red Grant character played by Robert Shaw.
Robert Shaw, yeah.
It's still the interplay is occurring. It's still Russia trying to prevent, because even though they never cut to anyone in Russia being like, we've got to prevent them from getting the Lecter, you gather that's what they're doing because they probably want the Lecter.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Rick, we were talking when we were watching the movie yesterday.
Well, what I was going to say is that like, so it always keeps the action moving, and there's always stuff occurring. And then it actually took me watching it this time to realize there's a whole big set piece where Kareem Bey takes Bond to a gypsy camp just to kind of hide out for the night and enjoy some drink and food and watch two girls fight because they both like the same guy. And then a fucking siege occurs where agents working for the Russians in Istanbul just attack. And it's just this big, giant, almost fucking Robin Hood, Adventures of Robin Hood.
No, Mr. Bond, it's part of the entertainment for the night. Please enjoy.
So,
not at all. Yeah, and Bond just casually one-shotting everybody and all this stuff.
Yeah, he's running around and just murking guys in the middle of actual fights. He's like, hey, let me help you out. And
then it shows Grant actually prevent a guy from killing him. Yeah. Because that's his assignment. It's like, no. I kill Bond.
Exactly. I think what's awesome about that is that because it's established that like the Russians are after Karim Bey. They had an assassination attempt, and they're trying
because Karim is trying to get help Bond. They never explicitly say it.
No, they don't. But the important thing is that they're trying to kill Karim Bey, and Bond's in the way. And it's one of those things where, without saying too much, adds another world of danger where it's like, oh shit, he doesn't just have to work. He thinks he's worrying about Smersh, he's got it, but then you also have Spectre in the background, kind of like biding their time, like letting the chaos kind of take its toll. Yeah,
pin the two sides up against each other.
It's like
off each other.
Yeah, it's like
and we'll get what we want.
The moment in the 2014 Godzilla, it's like let them fight.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Ken Watanabe.
Well, it's Spectre essentially what they're doing is just playing the two sides off each other.
Yeah, they're just trying to cause problems.
No, yeah, fantastic.
Because if anyone hasn't gathered yet, it's a Cold War era movie, and so the politics, would be very much known at the time. Is that the West is up against the East, specifically the Soviet Union, and obviously James Bond's on the side of the West, and specifically England.
Yeah.
So the fact that it is a Spectre as this terrorist organization bent on world domination and profit.
Special Executive Counterterrorism Revenge Extortion.
There you go.
So, John, in our discussion getting ready for this episode, you were talking about how much you love the production design, and you also mentioned you have a particular fondness for the opening credits scene, which I think ties really nicely into the production design aspect as well. So why don't you elaborate on that subject for us?
I don't know if I said that I really like the production design so much in this movie. I just remember thinking that it was something that stood out to me a lot more in a couple later ones. But I think the really interesting thing about the production design in this one in particular is like it's seemingly understated because of the use of locale and how the film was centered around like, we're going to shoot in Istanbul. We want those backgrounds. We want to see that. So there was a lot of
this one's location, or at the very least recreation.
There's a lot of location oriented set pieces. Some things that are clearly built, like for example, the gypsy camp was clearly an outdoor set that they just wrecked, and
which is actually a recreation of a place that they scouted.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't shoot in for reasons. We're very detailed here for reasons, and so they just recreated it. I believe at Pinewood. If I don't have that information correct, it's just
incredible.
A recreation in England.
It's
and
great.
I can't tell because they're that good.
They shot it at night, so and they had full control over the grounds. So it just makes such great sense to do it in that way. So it's very incredibly clever. And then of course also like just finding locations that would opt them shots where, for example, you can see the palace within the background of what you have in your foreground element. Also, use of the underground and that whole gondola scene where they're just passing by the banisters and everything over the water. So incredibly well shot and lit.
It's like an underground city. It looks like the mines of Moria.
Yeah, they're
because these pillars under, and then it's just water, and it just gives it such like.
They don't spend too much time on it either. They really just let the shots breathe, and then they cut, and they waste those shots off like they're nothing. But really, like those are like you're like, hey, that's like $1 million shot.
Now they would be exalted, like, oh, look at the mastery.
Well,
back then it's just
I don't even want
to efficiency.
I don't want to even compare the production, approach then to now. In some ways, they are dissimilar, but in a lot of ways, what I really appreciated in this film was that we hadn't been too predisposed yet to the Ken Adam production design model, like we did get out of Dr. No. We like got those exaggerated angles and things in office rooms.
Beautiful stuff.
No's. Really, I mean, awesome. And it set the palette for everything else you had to expect. But in this one in particular, it's mostly just locations and rooms.
Yeah.
It's really using the Cold War era backdrop as set piece, being like, this is just happening in our day-to-day. This is just happening in the background somewhere here in the countryside in Istanbul.
And it does add to the grit of the film. And I mean, it still has plenty of style. It's stylish. This movie's stylish as fuck. That's other approach to the production design that that's not Ken Adams did lend it this sense of it did kind of make it grounded in that idea that this is more of an espionage film than any of the other films than the film before and any of the films since.
It should be noted real quick that this movie is actually not Ken Adams, but it's not like a totally new ball game. It's the set director who works with Ken Adams, because Ken Adams went to go do some little movie called Doctor Strangelove. Never heard of it.
This Stanley Kubrick character. Stanley what?
Go back to the Bronx.
He makes a picture.
Yeah, no, it was Sid Kane.
Sid Kane, his set decorator, I believe. But it's a great handoff.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. It's not like, fuck, who are we gonna get? Someone who clearly worked with us and can, knows what the goal is here.
Yeah. The funny thing is that the moment in the mosque, where Bond, there was somebody who was following Bond and Grant kills that guy.
Yeah, a reoccurring figure.
The mosque. Yeah, a reoccurring figure.
He's just trailing her, I believe, most of the time. No, he showed up the second Bond lands in Istanbul.
Yeah. So he's tailing Bond, and Red Grant takes care of him. But they're in this mosque. First off, that mosque is gorgeous. I think mosques have some of the most beautiful.
It's a beautiful movie.
It's a beautiful looking movie.
Everything, yeah.
But mosques in particular have a really underrated, underappreciated design to a lot of them in internationally. That's just a side note. I just have as a religious as I am, I have a great passion for some of the architecture that goes into religious buildings like cathedrals and temples and mosques. So I just wanted to, that's just my personal thing. But the nice thing about that mosque is, like, if you had told me that it was something that was designed by Ken Adams, I would have believed you. It does have that feel to it a little bit. Yeah. It does have that feel to it. But it's not over the top. It still feels apropos for the gritty reality that From Russia with Love has, comparative to some of the other films.
Yeah, if I can sort of like point out, I think Sid Kane's approach, say in comparison to what we get more out of Ken Adam throughout the following films, it's that like, again, there's still a big scope with this film that's trying to be achieved, especially with like deciding on those locations. Just for example, like the countryside where James Bond is being chased by the helicopter later on, and just sort of finding a good opportunity for like, where can we crash and destroy this thing Just fully blow it up.
Yeah, because it's not like a flat plane. It's
No.
hills and
Yeah.
mountains in the back. So it's got visual appeal and dynamism to it.
Yeah. Also really loved Kareem's office as a set.
Yeah.
I thought that was one that was like a standout and looked great. And I really loved when they blew it up. And they have that like electric pink gel on the light for the explosion. It's trippy, man. It's 1960.
60s.
It's 1963, baby.
Yeah,
Should have said
baby.
it's groovy, baby.
It's so groovy. It is. It's groovy,
Yeah,
baby.
Can we talk about the characters? I don't want to give them short shrift because they're pretty awesome in this one.
Yeah, I really
No,
want
I
to
think
get into
so.
like just right off the bat. Can we just talk about like Red Grant and like his intro?
The opening.
A-
Do you want to
actually-
do it? You want to talk about the
actu-
opening?
Film.
Yeah, well, I love Red Grant, and I think one of the reasons why I love him as a Bond villain so much is because of how well performed he is by Robert Shaw, and I think it's like one of his most standout performances in a movie where I feel like he just caters all of this charisma and stuff that I just
He doesn't speak until the third act.
it's so sorely missed actors with that level of reserve and
Yeah.
someone who wouldn't be too overwhelmingly invested in like, nah, can I just scratch my jaw like this when I or wince a little sometimes? No, he just plays it completely fucking silent.
Because these actors knew they were tough.
Yeah, and he gets one of the boldest introductions, although to me a rather befuddling and confusing attempt
I
at a
don't
pre-credit
agree,
sequence.
but fine.
Listen, I'll say that
Describe the opening. This is the opening of the movie.
The opening of this movie-
the first pre-credit opening, which just real quick trivia, worked out by Terrence Young and Peter Hunt just because they were moving scenes around, and just one of them went, "What if we just play this before the start opening credits? Let's give it a
Yeah.
shot." And then
Freak out
boom,
the
the Bond
audience.
pre-credit sequence was born.
it's
Just out of trying to make the edit work. That's
it's
amazing.
a great idea, but I feel like they really get it the next time around. And that's because this film starts with James Bond in full tuxedo attire running
Looking
through
rather made up and
yeah,
pink.
he's
in the
he's
face.
looking a little clownish. And we see him, we're like, is that James Bond? You become suspicious almost immediately. Then he's lurking
Sean
around this
Connery
little
wearing
like
lipstick?
greenery, some grounds with some hedges and things around.
Mhm.
He's at
hiding behind-
He said Bushwood Country Club.
Yeah, he's hiding behind one hedge, looking around another bush. He steps on a twig, and you're like, "That's pretty clumsy, Bond. What the
But there's
fuck?"
a blonde man looking at him a
Yeah.
lot.
Shaw shows up as Grant, and suddenly you learn Bond is not hunting this guy; he's being hunted.
Yeah.
Then he shows up right behind him and draws this little piano wire from his watch, and
Is
then
that the
like
first time we've ever seen that in a movie?
me personally.
Well, no, I
Probably.
mean like just in the history of film, like a wire as opposed to
I
a
don't know
rope.
about that. I think
Hmm.
people have used wire to kill people in movies before that. Probably, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
Look into it.
I'm looking
That
at.
seems
I'm
like a
actually looking it up
Hitchcock
right now.
thing. Hitchcock must have done something like that, right? Piano
I'm
wire
actually
seems like
looking
a
up
very
right now.
classic Hitchcock thing. Anyway, he kills it. He kills James
No,
Bond,
this is important.
and we're supposed to be shocked. You
We
know,
are
We're-
shocked.
Well, we're supposed to be shocked because they kill him.
Think about the time. At the time, that was probably like,
Shush,
what the
shush, shush. I know first.
Don't tell me to shush.
Yeah, well, let me finish what I got to say here.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're
well,
gonna
hurry
roll.
up.
Hold on, we're
Take
gonna
all the
roll it
air.
back.
Hey,
We're
you
gonna
get
roll
out
it
of my
back.
way.
Hey, let's roll it back. Let's roll
What?
it back.
Let me
John,
finish
you
what
were
I'm saying.
exactly,
John.
John. You
Let me
were
go.
saying.
Don't interrupt me.
I was trying to stop the interrupting. That's
What was I saying?
Christ.
You were talking about. You're talking about the opening. God damn it.
Right.
Focus.
I was saying.
Drinks from his
So
canteen.
we see Grant kill Bond, and we're shocked because oh no, James Bond was just killed.
Yeah.
And
Is
then
this
these
movie over?
giant lights turn on. Oh yeah, the end. These giant lights turn on, and gentleman steps out with the timer and says, 1 minute 48 seconds. Much faster than last time.
Yeah, that's
or
excellent.
something along those lines. And then they remove the clownish James Bond mask from the person in the tuxedo. Turns out it's just some dude.
With a mustache.
And then they all walk away.
Mustache.
They
and
walk
then,
back into Bushwood.
And then we get some naked ladies dancing in the dark for the opening credits.
Well, you get John Barry's just just kicks in.
So classy. It's so
We're gonna cut that out.
You can go ahead and say that these movies are totally male fantasy. Yes. Well, that's 100% what they are. And
you get a lot of Connery with his shirt off in this one too.
You do. Listen, there's something there for everyone.
Yeah. That's why the world saw these movies at that time.
But it's also just bold and brazen with its attempts to just really entertain the whole male fantasy angle of the Bond series and really amp it up. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's not. I understand that objectification of women is looked sorely down upon in our day and age, but it is prevalent that sex sells in entertainment. So it's not there to be exploited in a positive way. And in this movie in particular, it's all really rather tasteful. It's not too outrageously.
I would dare say it's almost tittillating.
I mean, it's great. It's really good fun. You know, there's nothing in it to me that comes off as offensive. And whereas say like we get into Goldfinger and like, you know, James Bond is literally
that's a whole nother
women in the face and stuff. But
make love to me.
There is that moment in the beginning where Bond slaps Sylvia Trench on the hand because she won't stop talking.
A returning character from the first film.
Yes.
Sylvia Trench is the lady who literally, like a fucking straight man, sets up Bond. And your name is? Line. Bond. James Bond, Sean.
Bond. No, fuck. Line.
No, she has a return appearance after the opening and the opening credits. Once again, yes, this is the first time there's an opening scene. It's not a big action scene. It's just a big red herring of, you thought Bond was dead, but not really. We're introducing our villains.
But you know, here's the real problem with that.
Nothing.
No.
Not a damn thing.
He just killed a guy in a Halloween mask. Is that supposed to be intimidating? Is it supposed to... Did he get the job?
Here's my theory on it. It's like psychological conditioning. He's like used to killing Bond.
There's only
later on, he is so eager to humiliate and kiss my foot.
There's only one target in the hedge maze.
I think it's psychological. I think it's just.
Oh my god!
But I think it's better is that poor guy that had to play that.
They literally hired him so he'd die. How did that work?
It's just like, you are going to wear the Bond mask and you have to run around this hedge. Am I going to be okay? He's just going to stun you.
He's going to put you to sleep.
Let's
He's
also
just
be
going
real.
to put you to sleep. You wake up in the hospital, but like no.
Let's also be real.
Petrov is not going to wake up in a hospital.
Because John's asking like, what's intimidating? Like, how is that intimidating? It's like, so you're basically showing that the villain is ruthlessly efficient, is single-minded in his task of killing our hero. It actually ups the stakes. It's like, but you're right. There's nothing intimidating about that. Holy shit, the bad guy is really good at what he does, which is fucking killing people. That's not intimidating. That's really fucking intimidating.
It's a heightened world, so I think it's totally on par.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, it's shocking. It's like, holy shit, he just killed Bond, but it turns out he didn't kill Bond. But it's like, holy fuck.
He killed Bond with a lot of makeup.
Yeah, man. Like, no, that opening credit sequence is like sets up the movie really, really nicely.
And then the song plays, and it's a bunch of what it is belly dancing. Yeah. They recorded belly dancers, it seems to me, because it's a lot of belly dancing. Literally, the credits are reflecting off of the bellies or bosoms of these dancers, or legs, or buttocks. Like it's belly dancing, and before it would all become digital and stuff. It's really cool. not just being perverted, but like it's
No,
just
no.
creative.
Yeah, it's
And
actually
No,
it's a
it
wonderful
is.
performance. It's
Yeah, and
really
you hear the
exciting.
melody of the main theme of From Russia with Love. You don't hear the lyrics yet. They actually say that until the end.
No, not necessarily. Not at
Oh
the
yeah, it's
end,
on the radio. It's
on the
didactic
radio.
sound.
Yes.
That's right. At the very
Immediately
beginning.
following the credit sequence.
Sean Connery must be like, that's ironic. Like that song's playing, and I'm about to get a mission.
I think that From Russia with Love opening credit tune that goes into the Bond theme is probably my single favorite piece of music in any of the Bond films.
Because it goes into the actual Bond theme.
Yeah,
With a woman belly dancing to it. And her belly is gyrating to the theme. And I'm like, nice.
Man, we are getting canceled.
You want to go to the strip club? Nah, man. I want to go to the belly dance.
Listen, what is wrong with that though? What's wrong with enjoying that? There's nothing wrong.
If it was a guy, it'd be just as cool.
Yeah.
I mean, well, that's the thing, Rick. You mentioned you put up you mentioned that there is something for everybody in this movie. I mean, look, it shouldn't be ignored also that because of Bond's bachelor status, this movie series also has a pretty strong following in the queer community as well, in the LGBTQ community.
Well, look at him. He's a bear.
I mean, for sure, man.
He's
Like, listen, I'm
the bed's too small. What?
What? Like I'm actually part of a LGBTQ plus Bond appreciation Facebook group, and that's the thing. It's like a lot of these folks are talking about how like hey, listen, there's something for me in all these movies. I'm like, hey, good.
Yeah,
on
are
you.
they dated in some aspects?
Of course.
We can't sit here being like, actually, it's very progressive, and if it's very Marxist. Like, no, it's not that at all. But
the funny thing is that in a lot of ways, in some ways, they were in a way because
Marxist.
No, not Marxist, but
okay.
maybe progressive is not the right word, but they were very forward thinking in the sense that up until that point, like overt sexuality was something that just wasn't really.
Oh, they were
discussed.
in that realm, and that's and that's
it was more pushing the envelope.
Yeah, it's pushing
being progressive.
I never noticed.
That's why I said progressive is not the right word.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
There's a shot when he comes in. And Tatiana has finally infiltrated or finally met up with him. Not at a cafe, mind you. Like, it's me, Tatiana. I'm here to defect. It's like in the bedroom. Because, well, I guess we need to set this up. Spectre devises a plan after the opening with this. First, it starts with the guy playing chess with a very, very swarthy, evil-looking dude. Just like, and he gets a message under the whole classic, a napkin under your water. Message. I don't know. I've ever looked under my cup of water for a message, but this guy did.
It's really cool the way he sees it, though. They
set it because he gets the glass of water and he gives a look of like, I didn't ask for that.
Yeah, it just gets brought to him, and he's very taken.
And so that's what initiates him. It's well done. It's well done.
Yeah,
but it sets up a meet with where we meet Blofeld. At this point, Inspector Gadget villain. I forget what was that goddamn villain's name. It doesn't matter. And Claw, that's it. And this chess guy is the one who devises the plan of like they just want to kill Bond. It's revenge.
Isn't he number 2?
He's number 2, and Rosa Klebb is number 3, right?
Yes.
And she's the one who's gonna get Tatiana. This guy comes up with the plan, and she's the one that needs to set it up by getting Tatiana. It's almost Red Sparrow stuff where
she's connected with Smersh. She's part of their defense division or something, right?
Right, that's right.
Rosa Klebb is in the movie is formerly of Smersh, now with Spectre, and manipulates.
Because they love money.
No, she's not she's part of Smersh. The guy just says it in the movie because she's a double agent.
That makes sense.
He was implying yes.
Hold on.
How the hell do you think that she got the girl?
Well, I was getting to that.
Uniform and everything.
This reminds me of the scene where her and Tatiana are fighting.
Well,
you will not ask questions.
Well, that's the thing. I was getting to that. Like, Rosa Klebb is former Smurf, now Spectre. She manipulates Tatiana into the plot by posing as a Smurfs agent because Tatiana still is a Smurf sympathizer.
Is that
Well, I think what it
how
is
that
I think
goes?
you both are right. She does not work. She doesn't really work for Smirsh, but she's operating within Smirsh in order to get, to still work.
It's
She's
hard
doing
to
the bidding of Spectre within Smirsh.
it's hard to pose
He-
as
look,
Smirsh.
Rosa
She's got
Klebb, a
the
former Smurfs colonel turned Spectre operative.
But I think that's what I'm saying. You're both right. She is working for Spectre, but she is pretending still to be with Smirsh. Hence her getting Tatiana to do this assignment.
Okay. I was a little confused about that. I was under the impression I thought she was more like an Oromov character. Remember, like in GoldenEye, who's like holding his position within Russia, but then actually is part of this other organization.
I think she is. I think she is. She's got the uniform of a Russian armed forces officer. I don't know what the fuck, the army. I don't know. Yeah. And that's how she gets Tatiana to do it. But even Tatiana doesn't know. She thinks she's, as they say, she thinks she's doing it all for Mother Russia.
That's right.
She doesn't know. And so later on, when shit starts hitting the fan, when Kareem Bey is murdered by Grant, it sets off Bond to be like, what the hell's going on here? And, Tatiana falls apart. But I love you, James. I don't know.
Well, maybe it's not clear. Maybe it wasn't clear in the movie as I thought. Everything that I've ever read about From Russia with Love, the movie, whether it be like those DK, like those giant DK books where they like the world of James Bond, and they have like dioramas that are cutouts of like the cars and stuff like that. Every single one of them refers to Rosa Klebb as a former Smirsh colonel.
What I'm saying is, you're both right.
I get it.
She is former, but she's still pretending to work for
them. That's what I got my takeaway. Not that she still was with.
It's like someone used to work for Coca-Cola, but Pepsi has bought them out.
Okay, we got it.
Let me finish. Then no, I'm kidding. We lost our fucking train of thought here.
You know what, though? I want to talk about Klebb and that whole encounter with Tatiana because it's incredibly gay.
Oozing with it.
Yes, like the most lesbianic tension whenever she's touching her,
making her
floating around her, and making her feel so grateful that she's getting such a.
Well, she's treating her like a piece of meat.
I know, and it's disgusting. And I think that's something that this movie really excels at is like characterizing the organization through its assets, through its characters, and that you don't actually ever see. Number one means that you really do sort of look at all the other characters as extensions of that character. And I think that's a really
use the octopus.
It's great. It's so clever. I think in its whole device and its concept and visually, thematically, character-wise, it's all threaded together in such a cunning way. And I think the scene with Klebb and Tatiana, it's there's so much tension, and it's so well played by that actress who plays Rosa Klebb. I don't know her name.
Lotte Lenya.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah. Tatiana's not the best Bond character. She's essentially just like a girl caught in a situation that's way out of her league.
Yeah, she's a pretty wide-eyed idealist.
Yeah.
And you can respect her for that because she really is trying to do it for the greater good for Mother Russia.
Yeah, and she's not like Pussy Galore where it's just like tough as nails or I'm blanking on other ones.
She's certainly one of the weaker-willed. She's just a slave to James Bond.
To this Cold War. Yeah. But the actress does a good job. Like, I don't think it's the actress's fault. I think she's genuinely, she's got a natural beauty.
And everybody in the cast is.
She's really earnest in the movie. She's really good, I think, actually, for the part that it is. I mean, she's not like pathetic, like, or anything, but she definitely is not a warrior or like an internally strong fighter kind of character.
No, that's fine. I think she. The thing is that she's not. She's someone who is along for the ride. You know what I mean? She's not
She wants to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, exactly.
She's getting
not,
played in the end. She is
Yeah,
the victim in
absolutely.
this whole situation. So you
That's
really
really
do
true.
Well, that's
you
the
feel
thing.
sorry for her.
There's a remake where it's like her being used, and it's all from her point of view.
I mean,
oh God.
But the thing is, but John, it's funny you mentioned like the tones of that scene between Lotte Lenya and Daniela Bianchi, Rosa Klebb and Tatiana Romanova, respectively. Sorry, I will use their character names.
I gotcha.
Okay. Yeah.
Rosa, you said a lot of names.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're right to pick up on like there are because in the book, Rosa Klebb is a gay character, an LGBTQ plus character.
It's outright. It's outright.
It's outright, and then it's kind of dialed down a lot more in the film, but the takeaway from that scene is the manipulation of power that's going on, and
Absolutely.
and you kind of you kind of also feel it a little bit from Bond himself, and it's in a weird way it kind of juxtaposes it. If you looked deeper into it, it's maybe the filmmakers aren't necessarily trying to suggest this, but there is something to be said about the fact that shit, are Spectre or an MI6 any different in or do they have more in common than they'd like to really let on, because like you do have two characters that are kind of taking advantage of the moment from a power structure perspective. I don't know, maybe not Bond so much, but Rosa Klebb definitely in that moment.
I mean, what really was the Cold
Yeah.
War without the brutality of and threat of power? I mean, that was the severity of those times, and that was the game that was being played. You know, everybody's cutthroat.
Absolutely,
the movie utilizes. I don't think it's really like about that.
No, but everybody still acts with that same level of like compunction, and everybody's very awful and cold blooded. Everybody except for Tatiana. And Karim is kind of shady though.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, but he's, to quote himself, charming.
Back to the salt mines. That guy. I love when his wife is just cooing for him.
Not even his wife. His
Karim Bey.
He doesn't even say her name. He's like, the girl ran in hysterics. He doesn't. I don't even think he knows.
He's like, what's her name?
I don't know. Stephanie, Olga. I don't know.
Be still. He tells her to be still. Yeah.
Yeah. Karim Bey is working on paper. It's like actually like a very like a day in the office, but he's like hanging out on the couch, and she is horny. She's just. I mean, the shot goes from what's the previous shot? It's like some other pretty thing into a really carefully composed shot of her laying down with her bosom up and ready. Covered, she's dressed, but it's very much cleavage.
Very provocative.
Very provocative. And she's just like, Hare Karim Bey. Like,
and he's just sitting across the room trying to read his paper.
Yeah, getting work done. He's signing stuff. And she's like, you're not happy to see me. He's like overjoyed. He's like so annoyed with her. It's like,
hilarious.
It's been a long day.
He is,
but she wants it. Funny. And he's like, finally, it's what saves his life.
It is very true.
It's
because then he goes to make love to her as he's like, fine. And he's taking off his tie, and then the bomb goes off.
It's nuts. It's nuts.
It's very funny.
It is really funny.
Karim Bey kind of is, I guess, what Felix is a little bit in the first one.
Do you think they finished?
No, like after the explosion.
No, I mean before, during, I don't know, after. Do you think
he says like the girl ran in hysterics.
Oh, she ran. Do you
That's
think
why
they finished?
I'm like, he doesn't know her name.
But do you think they finished? That's a better question.
I don't think so.
You think they did their thing and she was like, oh fuck.
A delayed reaction to the explosion.
But you know what? Let's take this moment to talk about Karim Bey a little bit and talk about
What were you talking about?
Let's
Before we turned over to that, we were talking about something else. Oh man.
I mean, we were talking about the power struggles, but we kind of found our way.
Oh, I wanted to talk more about Cold War stuff, but all right.
Then go ahead, talk about Cold War stuff.
Well, I got into this movie more as I learned more about the Cold War.
Yeah.
and got fixated on movies that were set during that period. And then I kind of came back around to this one and realized, like, oh man, that was really more like a real spy movie than the other sort of super spy, Bond movies that I was familiar with. Like when we get to submarine car and jetpack and all this stuff, it's like no, there's all the stuff in it's pretty practical. All the actual, like, even down to like the I want to talk really quick about the gadgets if we can.
Yeah, sure. Because I
think
that suitcase, man, you were jonesing for that suitcase.
I gotta tell you, if ever there was a single gadget for me that I loved more than any other gadget in the Bond franchise, it's the attaché case in From Russia with Love. And how it's utilized in the scene is fucking immaculate because you're always holding on when you're watching a Bond film to see how each gadget is going to end up being used at that right time. When would Bond use that? You don't see it coming, and then all of a sudden he's at the edge of a cliff, and oh, thank God I have that parachute that shoots out of my fucking ass. And he's just got he's got something up his sleeve, and you never really know what's going to come into play.
Bond, you'll insert this suppository. Now, when falling, the parachute will fly out your ass. Sounds good.
sounds like fun.
Let's test it.
But I love the attaché case.
The intro of
it's Q.
It's Q.
It's Q's first.
And finding out he was only the actor Desmond Llewellyn is a replacement for a guy in the first movie.
Yeah.
Who gives Bond his Walter PPK. But that actor wasn't available, so they got Desmond, and he's credited as Major Tooth or something like that.
Major Boothroyd.
Mr. Boothroyd, and it's only of Q branch.
Yeah.
And it's only later in the next one, it's like, oh, they just sort of like, call him Q. I like to think of like a deleted scene where Bond's like, what's your name? Fuck it. Your name's Q. Yeah. it just stuck forever.
Funny story about that moment. Before we get into Q, because like not enough can be said about that character, especially Desmond Llewellyn. Like one of my favorite, because I think we all, or at least Rick and I, watched the Inside From Russia with Love supplemental documentary that came with the film. Now, for those that don't know, every film from Dr. No all the way up until License to Kill, when they were re-released on DVD, I think in time for The World Is Not Enough, I want to say. But the very first time
that's his last DVD. One.
Yeah. So that was the first time that they were all released on DVD. And the Brosnan films have their own supplemental material, but every single film from Dr. No up until License to Kill has a supplemental documentary that is narrated by Patrick Macnee, with the exception of View to a Kill, which is the one Bond film that Patrick Macnee was in. So they had somebody else dub that one. But that kind of covers the journey of the making of that particular film. So with From Russia with Love, I learned there was a really funny story of Peter Hunt, who, when he edited the film, Terrence Young kind of asked him, "Hey, I want to see like what you've cut together so far." And the making of the movie had kind of been really tense. So as a joke, what Peter Hunt did was, he cut the scene, as you see in the film, up until the point where Bond is being shown the attaché case. And when it gets to the part where Bond opens the case himself, it cuts to the giant explosion of Dr. No's lair from Dr. No and just rolls the credits. And he was talking about how it was like the funniest thing that like Terrence Young rolled over in laughter because it was like such a tension reliever. So because he was like, you're watching this movie, I'm gonna see how the scene plays out. I know how the scene plays out, and then just go, woo!
Like, apparently the production was fraught with changes and rewrites and
very much.
Oh, this location didn't pan out. We got to go here now. Mm-hmm. A lot of like fly by the seat of their pants. There was a helicopter crash with the fucking director, and he lived. Yeah, and they just kept shooting. Like, that's crazy.
I would do the same thing though.
Terrence Young is a beast. Never mind. Now action. Like, come on. Like he's
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's why these first two have a lot of energy to them. You know,
Yeah,
he
they
comes
do.
back for Thunderball.
They do. Who
He started the franchise.
He started the franchise.
Credit has to be given to Terrence Young and Peter Hunt as editor, and
Oh my
Ken
God.
Adams, and who's the cinematographer again? God damn it, Ted Moore.
Yeah.
You know, these guys really created everything that everyone takes for granted now.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Peter Hunt in particular, he invented the action style editing that we know today. Like,
and then later on directed one, which let's not even say it, but we'll talk about it one day.
Oh, we will. It'll be the Christmas episode. Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
You gotta wait so long for that.
Huh? Do we though?
I gotta wait so long for that.
Oh, they just want to talk about.
What do they know? We can record that next week and be like, "Merry Christmas, everyone." You don't fucking know.
Yeah, it's like 85 degrees and balmy outside. We're fucking having drinks. Everything's reopened, and we're just like, "Hey, Merry Christmas, everybody."
Well, they're not gonna know. It's just our voices. When we're gonna show them video, no, we're not. No, fuck them.
You know what? When we record the episode, we'll just be like, "Hey, we're wishing you a Merry Christmas in July."
They won't know. We could.
But yeah, I think but yeah, so that was just a funny story that came out around the time, and Rick was absolutely right. They were switching stuff around constantly on that movie. That was not an easy movie to make, and they kind of expected to kind of just like, hey, we made this great film, now we double the budget, it'll be easier, right? Wrong.
Right. More problems. Problems.
Yeah, more money.
Yeah, they had an original writer who wasn't producing fast enough, so they got the two original writers of Joanne Hardwood and Richard Maybaum.
Dickie Maybaum, Joanna Harwood.
Yeah. And then they left because Young kept doing rewrites. So it must have been a fucking stressful production.
Yeah. I think part of it is that, they try to stay faithful to the book, which kudos to you, but the book kind of only works if Smirsh is the main villain. And they thought that just like switching Smirsh to Spectre would be like, hey, we can still keep the same plot. Then they kind of realized, like, wait, no, we need to restructure this a little bit. And like, so yeah, that's kind of that was one way. That was one way where they thought like it's a simple switch didn't actually work out, but it did force the movie to become what it is, and which is arguably one of the best Bond films.
It's my favorite, and it all culminates. Well, to talk about to play into what John was talking about, where it's very espionage-y. I mean, the last kind of section of the movie really just takes place on a train. Yeah, and it's kind of a fake duel, not a fake duel, but like what I mean is like everyone's pretending to like not know or be someone they're not. Essentially, kind of now finally comes down to Grant he's killed Kareem Bey. They're on the Orient Express, by the way. He's killed Kareem Bey, and a Russian agent that was trying to stop British intelligence from getting the Lecter Bond and Tatiana from getting out of Istanbul. And Grant is now finally he's pretending to be the contact that was going to get them to safety.
The MI6 agent,
yeah, and Nash, I believe, and. It just becomes this thing between him and Bond and Grant of, oh yes, oh boy, oh yeah, let's have dinner. He's like, right, He's very suspicious of him. He's like, oh yeah, you see, you're very fit. Essentially being like, oh, if you're a desk jockey, like you seem like fucking primed and ready to kill. So I'm not buying it. And you can get the sense that even Nash knows that, but he's still putting up the facade. You can't be at dinner being like, all right, Bond. Just sit down and order the fish.
Yeah, well, he's trying just not to put up a huge show so that... Do you think... let me ask you this. Do you think Natasha is onto it?
Who's Natasha?
Sorry, what's her name again? Tatiana. Sorry. Whoops. Do you think Tatiana is suspicious of...
Well, I think she gets a little... Oh, God, when Kareem Bey is killed.
Because there's something that I feel like
seems tense. She seems tense. I don't think she knows what's going on.
There's definitely something missing in the editing room where she's in the dining car with Red. I
think she knows something is off.
Well, it's weird because we don't get to see that moment where they're sharing that she's sitting right next to her, and that, you know, they're not even talking.
Well, I mean, let's also be real. Like after Karen Bay dies, like Sean Connery does kind of like Bond does kind of like grill her quite a bit, and then they go to dinner. So
she does literally say, "But I love you," and gets nothing back.
Yeah.
She's like, "I love you, James," and he just says, "Sure." It's like, well, she doesn't. He doesn't love you. So she might be a little like deflated from that.
Poor thing. I feel so sorry for her, man.
That on top, yeah, there really should be a remake of just like how she's used and fucking abused in this movie.
She really is. She really, really is. So let's.
I'm sad now.
Goodness gracious. All right, so let's. I think before
just real quick to wrap up on that, the fight scene that it culminates in.
That's true. Yeah,
one of the great fights in movie history, in my opinion, between hero and henchman.
I really like just red-blooded fist fights like that, where there's not any real grace, seemingly. I mean, it is choreographed, but it's like really just fucking guys just pushing each other down as fast as they possibly fucking can without any. I mean, there's almost no thought put into a lot of the hits because they're just giving each other everything that they have, which makes it even more compelling. Like they're just too fucking fast and too fucking strong for each other. So like any level of tact kind of falls out the window when you're up against someone who's nearly a complete match for you.
I have to say my favorite moment in that sequence, it's a little acting moment from Sean Connery, where he's just giving him the gold sovereigns, and then Grant says,
"We need to just talk about that for a second, though. I really want to talk
back
about
to the
that.
attaché case.
Yeah, because this is so it starts the whole fight. But go ahead.
Thank you. So it talks about like man, the like it gives him gold sovereigns. Grant asks him, does John Nash have any John Nash have any in his attaché case? And like that expression on Sean Connery's face it was perfect because he's like, shit, I'm gonna just get out of this, but he doesn't betray it at all to Grant.
Yeah,
I just love little touches like that where it's like, why, yes, well, let me look, and it's like, no, I will look, and like
he's not too hammy. He really plays for I'm gonna keep it cool here.
Yeah,
and doesn't play it up, doesn't give away any kind of micro expression that would give himself away.
He doesn't play tough. Connery's quite good. He's alert. He's like, I might get killed. Like he's kind of does that. He because he says like, can I have a cigarette? Nope. And he's just like, well, I need to fucking think of something to get out of this. You really see it on his face. He's not just, he's not just one note tough guy.
Yeah. Once Shaw really has
see him working it
out.
You see him working it out, and he's scared, but he's not going down without a fight.
Yeah. There's that great moment, of course, when Shaw and him go back to the car, and the girl's passed out from the drugs.
We should say this. Grant finds a very slick way to put drug in her wine.
Yeah, so he drugs the girl, and they all retire back to the cabin. And of course, that's when Red has Bond somewhat cornered in the separate quarter while she's in the sleeping car, and that's when he hits him over the head with his gun, and you're like, he could have killed him, but he didn't. So why? And then the scene continues to unfold, and he takes the money out of his pocket. He clears everything out of his pockets, takes his gun, but one thing in particular is he takes the money. And you're just like, what a weird, petty little touch. Like, why? Like, you don't need the money. He wanted the money.
All your speeches, and you're just a common thief.
Yeah, no, but he wanted the money. So he pockets the money, and then he waits for Bond to wake up, and then tells him basically that he's going to torture him, and he's really looking forward to it. So he's like...
Yeah, he's won.
Basically, he's got a huge crush on James Bond.
Well, he wants to. Yeah, he's got a man. I want to kill you, and I'm gonna love it. Crush, and
Yeah.
he's gleeful that he's succeeded.
And he also has no problem spilling his guts about Spectre at that very moment, about what's going on.
Well, Bond figures it out.
Yeah,
he does. And that's the other really interesting thing is without saying anything, when he says, "Didn't know you were working for Smersh," and he goes, "Smersh," and that's when he just gives it all away. And in all those,
you see it come over Connery's face.
Yeah, and all
like,
those cliche moments that you see parodied in from James Bond movies where the villain does the full exposition speech, or even in movies where they're not seemingly parodying, but this is the moment where we give the exposition. This is one of those fantastic moments where everything's said without even being said.
Yeah.
And you get to watch Bond figure it out. And it's such a wonderful and clever delivery that you really buy it.
Side note, my favorite parody or joke on that trope is in Dogma when Jason Lee's character, the demon character, Azrael, is giving away the plot. Salma Hayek, the muse, asks him like, the one thing I couldn't figure out. That's the one thing I couldn't figure out. And he says, "Oh no, I've watched way too many Bond movies to know I don't give away the whole plot, no matter how close to victory I think I am." Like, love that. Absolutely.
And then of course later, he catches himself off guard and he says, "Oh my God, you got me monologuing."
Incredibles. I love it.
Wait, that's the Incredibles. That's also him though. That's so
same
funny.
character. The same actor.
That did bleed in my memory too.
Yeah, shit.
Yes, the Disney film Incredibles bleeded into into memory with.
They probably did watch Dogma. They're like, let's get Jason Lee.
Yeah.
He's a fucking demon.
But I think also it's interesting to see the way that scene, of course, unfolds is how Bond has to figure out that angle to get out of this narrow situation where this guy's just got the gun on him. And it's not anything like he's strapped down to a table with a laser. It's nothing grandiose like that. It's just a guy with a gun.
Good old bullet to the chest is going to kill him.
Yeah, in a train car. It's great. And the way he outsmarts him is so cunning and exciting. Greed. It's totally down to that pettiness. He picked up on that. Like, this guy, I need to figure out what he wants, and then I need to use it against him. And it's like down at the very core, he was able to figure him out.
First, he thinks of the uncleverest thing, which is like,
may I have a cigarette,
last man
please?
Request shit. Like, can I have a cigarette?
And
he's like, not a chance.
Not a chance.
Shit. The Cougarans, you know.
But the truth of the matter is that for how much sometimes later Bond films try to humanize Bond, that's Bond at his most human, where it's like, dude, you got lucky. You got lucky.
He used his cunning, though. He really did outsmart him. He was able to figure out how to use that guy's greed against him.
Yeah, but not until exactly. But for a while there, he had nothing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and that's the other thing is you're so sure at that very moment that this guy's got the drop because he's been watching him the whole movie. He's been able to kill him at any given moment. What's going to stop him now? Except that he's just going to really enjoy it and he's going to take his time.
Yeah. It's fantastic. So we're going to wrap up this conversation by paying tribute to for lack of a better word, screen legend, Mr. Pedro Armendáriz, and his role and in this movie as Karen Bay. And it's kind of a heartbreaking story. He took the role because he wanted to leave something behind for his family financially, because I forget if it's because he was diagnosed during the making or was diagnosed right before. But
I think he was during. Like, he was feeling like tired, and then he got the diagnosis fairly quickly.
Yeah.
He had inoperable, was it stomach cancer?
Neck cancer. As a matter of fact, hold on, I'm going to actually pull this up. But yeah, it was a neck cancer that I'm not exactly, if I remember correctly, he was feeling pain in his hips of all places. And then he got diagnosed with neck cancer. But yeah, there are moments where he was struggling to stay up, and they had to at a certain point kind of put the whole schedule aside and just focus on his scenes for like a solid 2 week block in Pinewood Studios, just to be able to accommodate this man. And
He's got a real standout performance.
it's
And
a
him and
fantastic
Connery are
performance. Yeah.
great together. Like they have a
Yeah.
lot of
Great
chemistry. You
chemistry.
feel that they're friendly. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't seem to really know each other, at least in this, but the way they act, they really seem like friends. And so when Kareem Bey actually is murdered, Connery mourns him.
He really
And
does.
it sets him off. It's like he's pissed, you know.
I mean, and that's the
It's
thing.
not
We
like-
all mourn the character. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, my contact died. Shit, what am I? It's like
My
like,
friend died.
who's the mother? Yeah, you know, who the fuck killed my friend? You know.
It is. And you know what? We always during our movie discussion episodes, we always play a game which is favorite original character, favorite Bond kill, and favorite one-liner. I have a Bond one-liner, but my favorite line in that film is Karen Bay's, where it's like, I've had a particularly fascinating life. And would you like to hear about it? And they just like subdued this.
I have to pull that trigger.
Oh, he's so fantastic. He's part of the legacy of Bond as well. His son, who Rick mentioned earlier, was in a lot of films later on in life. My favorite of which of those is Once Upon a Time in Mexico with Robert Rodriguez.
He plays the president of Mexico.
President of Mexico, but he actually shows up in Bond again. He shows up and as I think of some sort of dignitary in License to Kill.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he plays a great character. He's a wonderful character actor in his own right. And it's heartbreaking because they do have such a great chemistry, Connery and Armendariz, and it would have been really
It's not too
cool.
dissimilar from like Sala and Indiana Jones.
Yeah. And we would have loved to see him come back.
A gregarious character that you can tell really loves life, except when a beautiful woman wants to.
I think he was definitely the model for the Sala character in Raiders. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Except for when a beautiful woman wants to have sex with him, then he's annoyed. God, again.
Get off my leg, woman.
Jesus. Thank God for that bomb.
Jesus Christ.
I was praying for a bomb.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, his ending, the way he eventually passed, he was admitted into the hospital and he shot himself in the chest with a gun that was smuggled into the hospital for him. And it's the whole thing.
Old school, baby.
I'm just gonna cut that.
OS.
No, leave that in.
OS for life.
No,
people will get what I'm saying.
No, I'm cutting it. It's gone. It's out.
I'm gonna keep talking about it.
Fantastic.
He had inoperable cancer, and he was just like, "Fuck you." I'm not going out like that.
Oh my God, dude.
That's Kareem Bey style.
So funny.
Oh boy. I have to edit this episode quite a bit.
Oh my fucking God.
If you don't leave that in, I'm never.
You gotta leave in the fun stuff, dude.
To Pedro, a hero.
You know, if you didn't want to talk about such raunchy movies, I mean, what did you expect?
On our next Bond and Beyond, Bambi. Fuck, the mom dies.
Bambi's fucked up, man.
I know.
Bambi's
I was
fucked
just
up movie.
saying.
Bambi's dark as fuck. That gave your fucking parents nightmares.
Did.
When you were little.
Yeah.
But
Mom, Dad, you okay? We're fine.
Just don't let Walt Disney
fine,
find
man.
me.
Back up, give me space.
He's out there telling stories.
He's in the house.
Walt.
Well, I mean, yeah, to Pedro Armendariz, he had a long career in John Ford movies.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a Mexican actor.
Yeah.
So of that time, probably not a lot of leads, character actor stuff. Probably a lot of bullshit like "Hello, amigo" crap,
Yeah.
But in the things I saw, he always brought a dignity and strength to his stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, totally sad because I can imagine, he's maybe somebody I would like to think the producers would have brought back.
I think so too. He definitely has that vibe.
Definitely.
Yeah, because he's too entertaining and yeah, like the solid thing. He's full of life in his performance.
Absolutely.
And he really brings out Connery, in that way. That's the real love story in this movie. Is Kareem Bey.
I mean,
James
it's
Bond.
for it being called From Russia with Love, and so much interest and like intrigue centered around the Tatiana character. It's really a big bromantic film.
Yeah.
It's a love triangle between Bond, Red, and Kareem. That's it.
Right.
There you go.
That's the subtext.
Am I wrong?
No, that
probably maybe not. No,
I actually disagree with Rick. I don't think it's a subtext. I think it's text.
It's just there.
I think it's so.
Yeah, Bond says it. He's like, "You want to have sex with me?" Grant's like, "No. Where are the cougar ants?"
Like, no.
I mean,
maybe.
It's so
offering?
apparent too that Red is like obsessed with him. He keeps calling him old man and stuff, and trying to.
Because he's fucked up because he's been
dominant.
probably for a year.
Conditioned.
Yeah, for a year he's been killing and hunting a guy with his face.
It's just
over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And not the same guy.
Yeah, he's literally been just full on brainwashed and indoctrinated.
Spectre is fucked up.
I mean, to me, it's one of the most compelling characters that they've ever produced, because I don't think that any other henchman really measures up. I mean, he was someone who literally did finally have the drop on James Bond, unlike so many other henchmen that have fallen after him.
Well, let's not forget our dear friend Oddjob.
Oh, I mean, yeah, there are other classics that are left to be mentioned, but I think Red's definitely it's one of the best.
I
totally
think he
agree.
is probably the best in a line of pretty good henchmen.
Yeah, sets the standard.
Agreed. So let's wrap up this episode the way we always ramped up, with favorite OG character, favorite kill, Bond
we
kill.
Talk about John Barry's fucking score. I'll mention it in the favorites.
But you want to just do that quickly?
I'll mention it in my favorites. That way it's organic.
Okay.
So I don't think we should keep doing like, hey, Cliff, how about you talk about the shoes of James Bond? All
right.
Even though there's no Cliff here.
No problem. So we're gonna wrap up this episode on the way we always wrap up our film discussion episodes, with our favorite game of favorite OG character, favorite kill, and favorite one-liner. John, who is your favorite original character from Russia with Love?
It's Red. It's 100% Red.
From Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah, Grant's just
maybe it's because
I've already said it, but Robert Shaw, I think it's one of the most like stand-up performances that I can remember from him.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
And I think it's also just one of my favorite James Bond characters.
Yeah, if you're a Jaws fan and you've never seen From Russia, check it out.
Yeah, no, he's just so menacing. You're in fear of him the whole time, and he's so well captured in the lead up to when he finally says his first lines. And
takes a brass knuckle to the abs.
Yeah, it's a pretty risky performance.
It is. And we should also clarify that what Rick means by Jaws is the 1976
Yeah, that's a good film.
Not the character from the 1977
clarification.
Bond film.
Yes.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah. Okay, so that's your favorite original character. What's your favorite Bond kill in this film?
I really love when Bond whips out the fold-up rifle and shoots the guy in the helicopter, and he drops the hand grenade in the canopy of the helicopter and blows the thing up. I thought that shit was so great, and to
Phenomenal.
me, it felt so real as it's happening. Like the way that the guy staged the drop was clumsy enough, but he'd been shot, so it's like it was just a narrow chance that he would have dropped that thing. Just
in a sequence, it's very much a remake of North by Northwest.
Yeah,
very true.
Yeah, very, very, very much an homage.
Yeah,
And
I like that kill. And it's of course very daring explosion for the time as well, and I
yeah,
think it's all really well played.
agreed. What's your favorite Bond one-liner?
Oh man, I was thinking so much about this. I still am so conflicted, but I think it's the red wine with fish should have been a giveaway. I think it was what the line was. I don't
I
have it
fucking
written
said
down.
that, and I forgot they say that in the movie. When we were watching it, I was just like,
Yeah,
"That's really odd," because at that time you'd have, and I'm like, and when they say it,
yeah,
I was like, "Oh shit!" Like I'm James Bond.
Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite line.
yeah,
It's just so particular and it's just so charming and cool and
Hmm.
yeah.
totally agreed. So my favorite original character is uh Karen Bay. I really, really loved his performance. I loved his chemistry with Sean Connery. I thought it's a character that I wish I could have seen more of in the later movies for obvious reasons we didn't. But that's I think that's the mark of a great character when, especially in a series like Bond, where you're kind of conditioned to expect a whole new cast surrounding him, that you want to see more of of that particular character. My favorite Bond kill is still when he finally kills Grant in that battle, in that fight. It just there's something about how earned that kill is, that it's, I mean, I enjoy a clever Bond kill like any as much as the next guy. But I'm also a big fan of when he has to work for it, and that was a kill that he had to work for, and that was really, really well done. And my favorite one-liner, John, I'm with you. It's the red wine with fish. I should have known. It's a it's fantastic. It's the delivery, the whole thing. It's almost like he's putting he's putting not just Grant down, but he's kind of putting himself down a little bit. I totally agree with you there.
There's also just something about his delivery that's like, man, if you handed this to just some doofus, it could have just lost
Yeah,
all the flavor in there. It's just it's just like good cooking, Like it's
yeah,
just a good, well cooked scene and a great line and a great delivery.
totally understand. Rick, who is your favorite original character in From Russia with Love?
Well, I want to give a lot of credit to. We talked about this with the wealth of characters that my friends liked in Goldeneye. I think this one is like that as well.
Yeah.
A wealth of great standout supporting characters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not in like
I agree.
not in like a, oh, every character gets their. It's they all have a visual.
Yeah.
They all give a visual impression, starting even with the intro of Robert Shaw to the number two playing chess with his fucking sickly look,
Yeah.
pale. It's like he is memorable, to the intro visually of the shoulders down of Blofeld and Rosa Klebb. Like everyone, there's a lot of standout, characters in this movie.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a tough one because a part of me does want to kind of say Rosa Klebb because it's kind of scary at the end of the climax when she
Mm.
just has we didn't talk about the fucking the shoe knife,
Ah, what
the
a
birth of the
great
shoe knife.
device.
She
What a
kills.
great weapon.
Yeah, she there's a moment when the plan fails and there's a Russian guy played by help me out, Tony. He ends up being in other Bond movies.
Oh
Not a
yeah.
Russian guy, a Spectre guy who's like he's like the trainer of
Yeah. He
Grant. And we
give
I totally forgot to talk about the sequence where Rosa shows up to basically see if Grant's ready, and there's the classic, training going on of all of these assassins, and the camera just pans by as this crazy shit is going on. People being shot at, running, flamethrowers, grenades, and all this stuff, kung fu and martial arts happening. And it gets spoofed later on by way of Mike Myers in Wayne's World as a preliminary for Austin Powers. When he's like, I just always wanted to walk into a room where James Bond training was going on. And that's where I think that sequence is born, is in right here in From Russia with Love. But
um
Go ahead.
Sorry, to interrupt. Just to answer Rick's question. So that is Walter Gotell. He plays a character named Morzeni in From Russia with
Mhm.
Love, but he does show up as a separate character, uh, Gogol, in some of the later General Gogol, in some of the Roger Moore era Bonds, and actually shows
Yeah,
up in the finale
KGB
of
guy.
Timothy Dalton's. Yeah, the KGB guy. So an actor who's been in multiple Bond films, but he does not playing the same character that he plays in some
Right,
of the later
right.
films. Yeah.
Like even he, it gives an impression. You just have a wealth of riches with the characters here. So I guess, yeah, my favorite though in the end is Grant. He just gets the upper hand, so to speak,
Yeah,
in everybody. But I do want to give a shout out to all of them. Yeah, definitely Grant is my favorite for all the reasons we talked about.
for sure. What's your favorite Bond kill, Rick?
I like the end with Bond setting a bunch of motherfuckers on fire.
Nice.
They're on the boat, finally
boat
about to get
chase?
out of there. Inspector has sent a bunch of people to stop them, and he drops a bunch of gas. James Bond drops a bunch of gas and fires a flare, just lights them up.
That's so sick.
Which leads to my favorite one-liner, and because I think it's practical.
Yeah.
And it's like a lesson. He says, "Well, there's smoke, there's fire," and I'm like, "That's true. That's true." As
very,
he's
very true.
burned like 20 men alive.
And you know what? Before we get to your favorite one-liner, Rick, I think this is as good a time as any to kind of touch on John Barry's score in this film, because the 007 theme that plays during that boat chase is fantastic. It's a separate, yeah. The
Oh no, it doesn't play in the boat. It doesn't play in the boat chase. It doesn't play in the boat chase. It plays in.
You're right. You're
Just when
right.
they get the Lecter, that sequence.
You're right. You know why I get mixed up is because it shows up again in Moonraker during a boat scene. You're right.
Barry utilizes it a few times in the
Yeah.
series.
Yeah. But that 007 theme originated in From Russia with Love. So
yeah, I don't know what that track is called, but
it's called 007.
The dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun, that whole thing. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's called.
pretty good, guys.
It's very adventurous. Like, as if the Bond theme is like cool and slick and celebratory. Like that theme is like acknowledges the action and adventure of the whole scenario.
I mean, I will put on the Bond theme while I'm grocery shopping or something, and it automatically just feels like a much cooler errand than it actually is. Like, I'll put on the Bond theme, like da 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 da, grabbing Tostitos, like da da da.
You're at the bank.
Da 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 da. And it's just like that'll be $5.75. So it's like, yes, please take my card.
I'd like to make a deposit. Receipt? Yes.
I'm so sorry. Can you forgive me? I don't know where I can find the lemon schnapple.
You turn down your speakers? Sorry.
So that wraps up our discussion on From Russia with Love. Guys, it was really awesome talking about this movie with you guys. One of my favorites. And we're going to be back. You Know His Name will return with our discussion on none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Sean Connery. Can't wait to get into this actor, this man whose illustrious career has inspired all three of us, and it's going to be a great discussion. So, from all of us at You Know His Name, please stay safe out there, and remember, nobody does it better. Good night.